Atawodi, the General Manager, Uber Nigeria. Many thanks for your time, Ebi.
Thank you.
Now, Uber does seem to be a company that means well, especially trying to offer something cheap and convenient for commuters. But, it seems many of us do not understand what Uber is, or we still have this juvenile understanding of what Uber is. And is it a victim of its quick success, if we may put it that way?
I think when you think about Uber, we are a technology company, and that's really the basis of our business. And you go over different countries, different cities, transport's very unique. You have, tuk-tuks in India, you have boda-bodas, you have matatus in Kenya, you have all these different unique ways of getting around the city. But the one thing that we see consistently is people want a more efficient way to get around their cities. And so now with a smartphone application, we're now saying you can open up an app and see these transport providers in your city, right? Existing transport providers, sometimes new transport providers, who are now able to get those leads via the mobile phone. And with technology, the possibilities really become endless.
All right, we have the growth forecast, which you can see on the screen there. And this is as of 2014. We have it at, as of 2014, you wanted to reach as much as 50 million, or you got to that point of $50 million. That's a growth success for that time. But as of today, 2016, what can you tell us? Where are you now?
And so if you're talking about Uber all over the world, I think very recently we had our CEO, Travis Kalanick, actually put something out about the number of trips. We'd hit 2 billion trips around the world. And those 2 billion trips happened in over 100 different trips happening at the same time at that exact second. So it just shows you the power of what it took us quite a while to get to the first billion, but from that billion, it took us less than 6 months to get to the next billion. So I think what ultimately it shows is as we go into these cities, as we go into places, we're now in quite a number of cities around Africa, Lagos, Accra, you've got Nairobi, Mombasa, our very own Abuja was the 400th city. And today, even, you said earlier, when we launched Abuja in March, there were 400 cities. Today, there are over 475 cities around the world. So in a very short space of time, you're rapidly sort of expanding.
Exactly. Talking your expansion now, talking your entrance into Nigeria, it was quiet, if we may say. Was it a deliberate strategy, or were you trying to test the waters?
I don't think our sort of introduction was quiet at all. I think it's probably indicative of the times that we were in. When we launched Uber in Abuja, a lot of people already knew what Uber was. They were waiting for it. There was sort of latent demand. When we launched Uber in Lagos, I remember joining and people asking me, so what exactly is Uber? So with the times, what you're finding is as we go into markets, sometimes people have already heard about Uber. They've already tried downloading the app. They're already trying to use the app in their cities. And we're talking 2 years. A lot happens in 2 years. And that's probably what we're going to continue to see in Africa, cities sort of waiting for technology to help sort of simplify their sort of daily transport.
All right, let's get down to the controversies surrounding Uber operations all over Africa. We know that we have Uber in 66 countries as we speak, Africa, the Middle East, Europe, all over the world, in 570 cities worldwide now as we speak. And we know you're faced by so many challenges, protests, especially with your metering. Tell us more about this.
So I think important just to point out that Uber is not a meter. It's an application that allows you to request a car. And, in a lot of cities, that estimated time is, less than 5 minutes. For example, in Lagos, it is 5 minutes. There was a time when it was 15 minutes. And I think as you go into any marketplace, when you bring something that changes the way people think about what is the norm, so to speak, sometimes you can get people having not having the full picture, the full information. Uber is not a closed platform; it's an open platform. Anyone with a vehicle.
Yeah, I do know that you do not want to be termed as a transportation system. You want to. It's an app, as you said.
It's a technology company.
Exactly. So how do you want to be seen, really?
I think
in the face of these challenges, especially, I know some countries are saying that you are not being regulated by their regulations. For example, in South Africa, where you see most of the cab operations there being under some form of regulation. They claim that you've not been, some of your drivers have not gotten the licenses and all that. So how do you operate in those areas?
I think it's important to first state that Uber is very pro-regulation. I think also it's important to look at the fact that in a lot of places, the regulations that are already in place were designed before you even had smartphones. So it's a whole new different, it's almost, it's a whole different way of thinking about transportation. In a lot of cities that we're in Africa, you actually will find that we're in pretty much every city, to be honest, we're actively engaging the transport ministries, actively engaging the regulators to work together to form smart regulations that consider these new changes in the way people get around. Right? We believe that ultimately one citizen should be able to, with the right sort of regulations and with the right policies in place, so your insurance, making sure that they have driver's license and so on, a sound vehicle, should be able to offer service to another person. And quite frankly, as we go into these cities that are growing quite rapidly, right? What we're finding over and over again is a constrained marketplace where there are not enough cars to meet the demand leads to invariably the economical opportunities being reduced, right? Because you're now spending more money on transport, which is a significant cost item, than you should be. When you can allow that fluidity, not only are you creating jobs, you're putting more money back into the ecosystem, you're impacting many other businesses, insurance companies, car washes. We have the company that inspects the vehicles in Lagos. One of them is a female mechanic, which is something people don't see, and they're always surprised
Exactly,
by it.
You already let the cat out of the bag, talking about employment and all that. Now, there is the issue of how Uber guarantees or verifies safety. I was on Uber sometime last week. Now, the question is, how do I know that, okay, I'm not being kidnapped? How do I know that, okay, I'm being safe with this particular driver? Talking about the driver competency in those areas, how do you manage all those?
So that's a very interesting point that you bring up, and I think one of the core tenets of our business is ensuring that you're getting a safe ride. So in all these countries all over the world, we make sure that we look at 3 different steps. So before the trip, you're making sure that every driver is going through a screening process. It varies in different countries depending on what sort of works for the country, but ultimately you're going through a screening test that allows us to ascertain, whether this partner should be on the platform or not. We also look at a series of documentation, including the soundness of the vehicle and so on. And then once you actually request a trip, you can see where your partner is. You can see how far they are. You can see the license plate, the picture, the phone number, and so on. And then during the trip, you can send that information to a friend. You can share the ETA. After the trip, we have a 24/7 incident response team, a 24/7 support team that will sort of treat any feedback that comes in. So from start to finish, you've got a very rounded process to ensure the safety of people on the platform.
Okay, I would have to hold you on for now. We'll have to take a break. But when we come back, we'll be looking at gender equality. When it comes to Uber, we know that some women have faced some sort of discrimination in some countries. So we'd like to know how you're handling that area. But that will be after the break. Just stay with us. You're watching Business Zone on TVC News with me, Yemisi Lanredo, and we're talking about online transportation. And we have the General Manager, Uber Nigeria, Ebi Atawadi. We've been speaking with her on the challenges and prospects of Uber in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Now, before we went on that break, we're talking about, I was saying that we're going to be talking about Uber gender equality. We have the figures there. From what we have just 10% of women employed. If we will get it, you would be seeing what, okay, we have it now 86% of men as drivers and 14% of women as drivers. And we know that from reports that we have, there is this discrimination when it comes to women. I'm sure you must have, you must have also got some situations there. How do you handle cases like that?
We haven't, Uber's, as I mentioned, is an open technology platform. Actually, some of our top performing partners in Nigeria are women, some that we've actually featured as well. very interesting stories that you see all the time. You have women that actually drive, but you also have women partners who have vehicles on the platform and employ drivers. And actually, for in terms of women on the platform, you actually find it's almost a 50-50 split between men and women. Of course, on the driving side, you don't see as many women driving, but you will actually find that when you look at the incumbent sort of industry, the transport industry as it stands today, right, you are looking at numbers below 1% of women. You know, how many times have you seen a woman driving a Danfo or a taxi, right? And you'll find that those numbers, on the Uber platform are well over, well over those numbers. And
in some particular countries, really?
In quite a lot of countries, to be honest. Actually, in a few cities, we've actually seen, in Africa, funny enough, we've actually seen more women partners than men, surprisingly. One of the
Can you tell us where?
Cities.
South Africa?
No, not in South Africa. In South Africa, it's quite a significant percentage. In Kampala, you find a lot more women. But actually, there are already a lot of women professional transport providers in the marketplace already. And I think that's an important thing to point out. Ultimately, women partners are looking for safety. That's the key thing when you ask them, when we've spoken to women partners, why do you want to, what do you look for to drive? It's safety and making sure that when they're on the platform, they're completely, secure. And a lot of our partners are actually now recommending other women partners. There's been no discrimination on our platform of a woman trying to be on the platform and not, as long as you go through the screening test and you pass.
But that is from you, but talking about the environment,
yes,
what they face, really, there must have been complaints.
Exactly. Environment. I mean, I can only speak for Uber, obviously. I think what we've done and what we've been able to achieve is a good indication of what is possible, right? There is no sort of, you don't find that women transport providers are, better or less or whatever. It's equal. And I think that's what's important to hamper on, that when you create these economic opportunities, you can now have people who maybe before were housewives and have a car, find a way to make a living. People who probably go into catering, right? People who, sometimes are laid off their jobs. So it's an open opportunity for anyone who passes the screening test and has the requirements in terms of comprehensive insurance, the vehicles, and so on, to get on the platform.
Okay, that takes me back to the issue of regulation and the issue of your drivers being independent contractors, meaning Uber is not binded by any form of regulation to act fairly.
I think I think there's no, that's actually quite incorrect. We are a technology platform, and our partners register onto the platform, and we have commitments to them in terms of, making sure there's a service uptime, making sure that, that the platform is providing them with leads and so on. That is our business, and that is what, when a partner signs up and sort of looks at our terms and conditions, that is what they're using the platform for, as a way to earn a living, right? And I think, the independent contractor point is very important, because when we speak to partners, one of the top things they say, over 80%, more than 90 actually, say they want to be their own boss. I want to be able to wake up at 1 a.m. and decide I want to drive for 4 hours and switch off. There are no timetables, there are no fees. If you're not working on the platform, you go off on holiday for 3 months or sabbatical, you can come back and continue on the platform, right? So you have, economic opportunity like never before. And I think the future of economic opportunities will very much be like this.
Okay, economic opportunities like never before. So how do the drivers get paid? So you may want to break it down.
Yes, so I think, that first of all, there are two kinds of people on the platform. You have the partner, who's Uber's partner, and every partner automatically, for whatever you make on the platform, whatever fares that you make on the platform, Uber keeps a 25% service fee, which covers marketing. For example, I was just speaking to one of the colleagues here, giving them a free ride, our support, our technology, the investments in sort of growing the business, and then 75% of that's going to the partner in the country, right? So very, very important. The lion's share of earnings are going to partners and it's what you make that you get a 25% service fee on. So if you're not making anything, or you take a break, or you take some time off, or maybe you're out of a job, then you get a job and you no longer need, to supplement your living. there are no charges. There's no registration fee, there's no admin fee, there's no sort of subscription fee. So that's a lot of partners then go on to sometimes not drive, or some even what we've seen, a partner will put one car on and then be able to buy 1 or 2 or 3 more cars, growing a business and employing other people. And then those are sort of additional economic opportunities and are not directly related to Uber, but
Is Uber paying any form of tax?
Absolutely.
In Nigeria?
Absolutely. We've actually very recently announced a partnership where we worked with PwC to create a partner briefing note. Tax is something that when people say it, it sounds like sometimes very complicated. Not all of us can afford the big fours, right? So we worked with PwC to put together a partner pack that explains how to sort of pay your taxes, how to be registered, and that's actually been celebrated by the LIRS chairman as well as the Federal Inland Revenue Service chairman. Uber pays all income tax, pay tax. It's a very important.
So we're Nigerian anyway. Yes, all right. Ebi Atawodi, General Manager, Uber Nigeria. Thank you so much.
It was a
for
pleasure.
being on Business Zone. It's a pleasure. It's nice having you.
Thank you.
And we hope we can get you some other time soon.
Hopefully soon.
Thank you.